Well, good morning. So nice to see you here. I'm so glad that you've joined us today. And for those of you who are online, I'm so glad that you've joined us for an online service. I am Reverend Jennifer, and we are Living Beyond Limits, a part of Centers for Spiritual Living. And welcome to our service. So let's start the service today by reading our mission statement that's on the front of the bulletin. We are a sanctuary where people can discover and reveal the presence of God within their own being and experience their oneness with all life. Through the realization of this inner presence of love and peace, we give way to the evolutionary impulse of the divine and become a beneficial presence in the world. So that's what we're doing here at Living Beyond Limits, is we are giving ourselves the opportunity to get in touch with that presence of the divine that lives within us. That presence of the divine that is the very essence of our own spirit, the essence of our own soul, that which we walk in and which we walk with and which we actually walk as in this world. Because what happens is the more we give ourselves the opportunity to discover that presence within, the more accessible it becomes to us. And the more accessible it becomes to us, our own divine nature, the presence of love and peace and wholeness and good within us, then when we are out in the world and the world is not reflecting peace or love or wholeness or kindness or whatever, we aren't so reliant on the world. Into that presence within us. I'm having a breakup here. Not a real breakup. David's still here. That we're not so reliant on the world reflecting back to us. We can tap into that within us. So I congratulate each and every single one of you, and actually thank you for walking this path, for walking this path of the divine, for bringing your spirit into this world in a way that is beneficial to everyone. Thank you for that. And so on podium with me this morning is David Conant, our practitioner. He's going to lead us in an evocation as we begin to evoke an awareness of the presence of spirit. And Dennis Bryan is with us today. He is going to lead us in the prayer chant, I open up. It'll be on the wall on this side today, and that will lead us into that evocation. So I invite you just to kind of begin to settle into yourself, to move into that place within you of beingness.
Speak with each heartbeat. I open up and I find peace.
As we take a moment to look into our hearts and discover and experience our oneness with Spirit, which is the source of joy in our lives. We do live lives filled with love and joy. And yes, there are distractions, but there are still butterflies and hummingbirds and squirrels running on the back fence. And yes, there's freeway traffic. But because we are spiritual beings, that really doesn't matter. Distractions like that create a more powerful recognition of our divine nature. That very same divine nature is in full view here today as Living Beyond Limits, which serves as a magnifying glass of Spirit for us today. I bless Reverend Jennifer for creating Living Beyond Limits. I bless Dennis for the joy his music brings us. I bless Ray. I bless all spiritual paths, and I bless this service. And so it is.
So it is.
Good morning. My reading today is from Unlimited Visibility by Stephanie Sorensen. It goes like this. We can become a master of our fate instead of a victim of circumstance by shifting our thinking from dependency on the outer world to trust in the inner world, and by keeping our true spiritual identity in our mind no matter what is happening in the outer world. As we turn within ourselves, we find the power of Spirit waiting to bring about all that we seek in the outer world. We realize that no one can keep us from our good, because no one can reach inside us and separate us from it. We create our good from the inside out. As the creative medium of Spirit is activated by our thinking and our beliefs. When we trust that there is a highest and best in every situation, because God is at the center of every situation, and when we're willing to do our part, our individual experiences unfold in harmony with the rest of life. When we open to Spirit, we can maintain a calm trust in the middle of chaos, because we understand that a divine plan is unfolding, even if we personally have not seen the blueprints. When we are convinced that life is for us and not against us, should things fall apart, we trust that the smallness of our life is breaking open so that the greatness of God can manifest. And so it is.
So it is. Okay, well, you know you guys like to dance, like to clap your hands. Come on, let's go. Here we go. When you wake up tired, but you got 8 hours of sleep, it's not 'cause you've been burning the midnight oil. You just forgot that what you sow, you reap. Success is not about all the shortcuts and stepping on someone's toes. Plan plant a seed and just be patient. Watch your richness grow and grow, and just get aligned within yourself. Get right with the Spirit's help, 'cause harmony is co-creation, and all it takes is your intention. Everybody, hey, hey, hey. That's what I say. Oh, yeah. Traffic is barely moving. When someone gets up under your skin, you know it happens. Coffee's not the reason that you feel rage. Just check the internal state you're in. When your mind is heavy with all the things you think you should do, remember that you got choices and belief in what is true for you. So just get aligned within yourself. Get right with the Spirit's help, 'cause harmony is co-creation, and all it takes is your intention. Just get aligned within yourself. Woo! Get right with Spirit's help, 'cause harmony is co-creation, and all it takes is your intention. Hey, hey, hey. Spirit's fostering, humans processing. That's the way it works when you're aligned within yourself. Get right with Spirit's help, 'cause harmony is co-creation, and all it takes is your intention. Everybody, hey, hey, hey. That's what I say. Hey, hey, hey. That's what I say. Last time. Hey, hey, hey.
What is that? That's fun. Well, as you all know, there are so many things in our lives and in the world that can cause us to have angst, that can cause us to be afraid or to feel anxious or to feel angry or depressed or sometimes even hopeless. You know, and perhaps there's something happening in your life right now that's causing you to feel anxious or hopeless or frustrated or whatever those feelings are. Perhaps you're having money challenges in your life, or perhaps you or a loved one is having a health challenge right now, or maybe even a health crisis, or maybe you're having a difficulty in some relationship of yours. And then, as we know, there's so many things happening in this country right now that can cause us to feel distressed and anxious and afraid and whatever the feelings are that you're feeling. Losses in the stock market that have been happening, and rising inflation, rising COVID numbers and new strains of COVID that are coming out, and racism and political decisions that you may not agree with. But the angst and the anxiety and the fear and the hopelessness about whatever is happening in the world or in your own life is actually a mirror of your beliefs about spirit, your beliefs about God, the infinite, that one and only presence. So let me tell you what that means again. The way that we experience life, not necessarily what's happening out there, but the way that we experience life and how we feel about what it is that's happening in the world depicts what we believe to be true about spirit, what we believe to be true about life, and about who we are and what we are. So let me give you an example. When you are frightened because the stock market has taken a dive, perhaps you have not yet realized that life is boundlessly abundant. Perhaps you have not yet realized that life is infinitely creative. Perhaps you have not yet realized that you cannot be outside of that presence, and that actually your life is that life of God. Or when you're feeling afraid because of a health challenge, maybe you have not yet realized and embodied in your consciousness that the truth is that in spirit there is only wholeness. There is only perfection. There is only harmony and order and balance, and that you are in that presence, and that presence is in you, and that it is the ultimate reality. That you are the outpicturing of that one. Or when we feel hopeless about politics or politicians, maybe we have forgotten that the infinite intelligence of God is expressing within every single person in this world. Maybe we have forgotten that that intelligence permeates all things, expresses within each and every person, and that, again, it is the ultimate power in this universe. Ernest Holmes said, "Remember that spirit exists at the center of all form. It is forever expressing in and as tangible form. The form of its expression may come and go, but it is changeless and eternal. Since spirit is at the center of everything, and in its action as law always responds to our thought, there is no limit to its creativity for us except the limitations which we ourselves impose on our experience of it." We want to live with a sense of peace and a sense of well-being. We want to live with faith and in trust. We want to have a sense within us that all is well. And I think very, very deeply in our innermost being, at our deepest level, we really want to know that spirit is ever present. That spirit is expressing itself as peace and order and wholeness and good. The problem is that we so often just live at the surface of life, that we get hypnotized into thinking what is happening around us in this world has the final say. Rather than fanning the flames of our own faith, rather than fanning the flames of our awareness of oneness, our awareness of omnipresence, instead we get stuck at the surface. So the title of my talk today is "The Water is Fine." And I'm talking about two things. One is that our reaction to life shows us what we believe about spirit. And two, that when things are challenging in life, those particular challenges and the way that we feel about those challenges invite us to remember the truth. To remember the truth about God. To remember the truth about who we are. To remember the truth about our life. And they are an invitation to dive deeper into our own spiritual awareness. Reverend Scott Aubrey said, "This is a spiritual universe in which we live, and all of our activities are of holy practice." Or they could be. That's the invitation. The mandate, to move through all of our activities and experiences with holy mindfulness. Mindfulness of spirit, of our spirit, of what we're telling ourselves, of how we're being, of how we're thinking. The trials of the world and the trials in our own lives and the feelings that we have about those trials are a call to shine our light. They are a call to be the light. They are a call to remember when we forget that God is bigger than this problem. God is bigger than whatever it is that is happening in our lives or in the world. To remember that Spirit is the ultimate power. And to remember that there is only the life of God. There's nothing outside of that life, and that our life is that life. And we remember that, but that doesn't mean we don't do anything out in the world. It doesn't mean that you don't vote, or you don't write letters, or you don't wear a mask. It means that you treat your consciousness and then you do what is appropriate to do in the world to move things toward and forward what it is that you want. So there's a story that I'd like to tell you. It says, there were once two Bedouins making their way on camelback through the desert to a local village to buy supplies. Both take their faith very seriously. But each has a slightly different perspective on what God wants people to do as they make their way through their own lives. The first argues, what God wants you to do is to defer to Him and let Him take care of you. The second responds by saying, no, that's not what God wants you to do. God wants you to take care of yourself as He stands up for those who stand up for themselves. The argument continues all the way to the village, where they finally arrive outside the marketplace. As they dismount from their camels, the second man immediately ties up his ride, while the first man allows his camel to stand freely. The first man says, "See, my brother, that's what I'm talking about. You have no real faith in God, so you feel the need to secure your camel. I trust that God will look after mine. And I have faith that when I return from the market, it will be as I left it." To this, the second man replies, "Well, my brother, I wish that were the case. But to me, the only way to make sure my camel will be here when I return is to take matters into my own hands. Not only does God approve, but that is what God wants me to do." The argument continues for a while longer, and then, this being ancient times, the two decide to take their argument to the nearest wise man, who of course resides in a cave in a nearby mountaintop. The wise man welcomes them in, and the first says, "Wise man, my friend here believes that God protects those who protect themselves, and therefore he ties up his camel. I feel that I am more faithful than he, so I know that God will take care of me, which makes tying up my camel a futile act." The wise man strokes his long beard, pondering for a few moments. Finally, he says, "My sons, you must trust in God." He pauses dramatically, as wise men often do, "and tie up your camel." So if you want to have a relationship, that doesn't mean that you treat for the perfect relationship and then sit on your couch and watch TV and never leave your house. It means you treat for the relationship that you want, and then you go out into the world where you're likely to meet people. You put yourself in situations and circumstances where you're likely to meet someone that might be of interest to you. It means that if you want better health, you don't treat for good health and then eat nothing but a diet of junk food and live under a tremendous amount of stress and never move your body. It means you treat and then you do what it is that you need to do to support good health. That you eat healthy foods, that you get enough sleep, that you move your body. If we only work at the level of form and not at the level of consciousness, it's like rearranging the furniture on the Titanic. Looks good, but it doesn't do much, does it? We have to address the cause, which is consciousness. We remind ourselves of the spiritual truth, And then we use actions to follow that support us moving towards what it is that we want. So in the book, This Thing Called You, Ernest Holmes says, remember, you are not presenting God with the problem. God has no problem. Principles have no problem. Therefore, when you bring your hopes and aspirations to the divine center within you, lay them on the altar of your faith in complete confidence. We are reminding ourselves God has no problem. That's telling ourselves the truth. So we convince ourselves of the truth, the capital T truth. Whatever that truth is that we need to know in that particular situation regarding those particular circumstances or the way that we are feeling about those circumstances. You know, and I don't think we need to grow our faith. I don't think we need to deepen our faith. I think it's all we need to do is to remind ourselves of that capital T truth. We just have to remind ourselves. We must take our focus off of the problem long enough that we can actually turn within and see through the eyes of our own spiritual beingness. See through the eyes of that infinite wisdom that lives within us that we can hear when we get quiet. So that we might look through the eyes of that within us which is eternally inseparable from that one, from the fullness and the allness of God, from the one love and the one power, the one intelligence, the one perfection, the one beauty, the one good, so that we might see through that is within us. We remind ourselves of who we are, and we remind ourselves of who everyone else is. In This Thing Called You, Ernest Holmes says, the mind that is in you is the mind of God. It knows nothing about big or little, hard or easy, but what it does for you, it must do through you. Hence, you must believe before it can operate for your benefit. So we do spiritual practice. We do what we need to do to fan the flame of our belief so that it builds, so that we remember and can see what it is. We do spiritual mind treatment to convince ourselves of that capital T truth. We meditate so that we can disconnect from what's happening in the world, from the problem, and move into that consciousness and that awareness where there is no problem. We read the writings of spiritual masters so that it can pull forward the truth that already lives within us. We create affirmations so that we can pull them out of our back pocket at any time and use them. Ones that speak to you. And so I have a couple affirmations that I'm going to ask you to follow me in saying right now. One of them is, there is only one life. That life is my life. That life is God's life now. There is only one life. That life is God's life. That life is my life now. And one more time, and really feel this. There is only one life. That life is God's life. That life is my life now. God is bigger than this. God is bigger than this. And one last time. God is bigger than this. and mine that I have that I pull out of my back pocket all the time is that life is for me. And one more time, life is for me. So you create an affirmation so that any time when you are feeling anxious or angst or stressed or worried or concerned, you can pull that out and tell yourself that simple truth that reminds you. You already know it inside of you, but it reminds you of what you've forgotten. We remind ourselves of what our soul already knows, but that our very human self often forgets. And so my invitation to you is threefold. One is to remember that how you react to what's happening in the world and how you feel about what's happening in the world or in your life is simply a mirror that is showing you what you are believing about spirit in that moment. The angst, the worry is caused by what you're believing about spirit in that moment. And two, to use those challenges, to use those feelings, to use the things that are upsetting to you in the world as prayer requests, to use them to move out of that human surface experience and to move into a deeper knowing that lives within you. Use that as an invitation to move within. It's a reminder knocking, hey, you need to pay attention. There's something you're not telling yourself here. There's something you're forgetting. You just need to go back in and remind yourself of what you know. Go in here and find what you know. And third is to unplug from the circumstances and to do the things that help you remember that capital T truth. To remember that there is only one life. To remember that God is bigger than this. To remember that life is for you and that life is for me because God is for you and God is for me. To tell yourself whatever else it is or do whatever else you need to do to help you connect with that truth within you. And as a result of that, you'll be living from a greater spiritual awareness. You will have more access to the faith that is already within you. And you'll be living with a greater sense of peace. And so blessings to each and every single one of you on this path of self-discovery, of remembering and being and giving way to the presence of the Infinite One. So blessings to you. And I invite you right now to join me in an affirmative prayer. Oh, and so we just take our attention off of this world of form and allow ourselves to sink into our own spirit, our own divinity, the presence of God that lives within us, that is none other than our own, very own divine essence. And so from this place, we recognize that God is everywhere present. Everywhere we look and everywhere we do not look. That God is within every single person and every single tree and flower, every single animal and insect, every single thing, every single mind, every single life. That the infinite intelligence, that the absolute perfection, wholeness and creativity and abundance and a boundless good are the very nature of life itself and therefore the very nature of everything that we see. And so today we just simply remember that we are incarnations of that one. Expressions of that one infinite presence here in this world, giving way to that presence. And so we use the things that are disturbing or distressing as signals to help us remember. They are just reminders for the moment that we have forgotten. And so we turn our attention to the knower within and allow it to guide us and allow it to reveal itself as our perfect answers and the perfect solutions and the perfect way forward in every situation. For in God there is no problem. There is simply the solution and the answer and the way. And so today we lean into that, recognizing that that is true everywhere. And so I speak this word about this entire world, as I've already been doing, recognizing that that intelligence is within every politician and every world leader, that love is within every single person, unity and oneness connecting us to each other, for indeed we are brothers and sisters here on this planet. I recognize that that one is present as the solution to every question in this world, and that it is revealing itself right now. And so it is with a grateful heart that I release this prayer into that creative law and rest in its unfolding. It is in faith and in confidence and in clarity that I rest. And I say, and so it is.
Now time for our affirmation on the white sheet. If we could say this together. I use circumstances that create angst as prayer requests. I unplug from the events and rest within. Here I find spiritual truth, one absolute power, one all-knowing intelligence, one boundless good, everywhere present, and so it is.
And so I have a couple of invitations for you as a way to participate in this spiritual family. One is, I think most of you are doing this, to go on Meetup. Living Beyond Limits has a Meetup account during the week, and click that you are going. It helps us get the word out there, so it invites more people in. And to follow us on Facebook. Our Sunday services are posted on Monday at some time. And if you are following us, it'll show up on your Facebook, and then you can share that also as a way to get the word out there. We are going to a concert in the park this coming Friday night. It is at El Dorado Park West. The Long Beach Municipal Band is playing. I put a little sign-up sheet in the back. Will you sign up if you're planning on coming? We will get somebody. Let me ask you right now, is anybody willing to get there early to save a space for us to sit together? If you're willing to get there early, would you raise your hand? Shelley, thank you. I was hoping it would be you. Shelley, I'll give you the sign and you can take it with you today too. So sign up just so she knows how big of a space to save for us. The concert starts at 6:30, but you need to get there early because parking can be challenging, but it'll be really fun to hang out together. Bring a picnic if you want or something to eat or whatever, and we will enjoy the band and get to spend some time together. And you all know that we have prayer support after church if you would like prayer. The practitioners will do that for you. We have prayer shawls. We have a ministry of prayer box. You can fill out a request, and we will support you during the week.